welcome back again, yet again, to another edition of, another installment of, another episode of Yap Break Radio with me, Who This here, at Who This Is One on the YouTube, live first and always here. Always available for playback as well if you'd rather do that instead. Free country, and if you're not in a free country, at least you live life free enough to do whatever you choose to. Whatever you gotta do, whatever's available to you, you do it how you gotta do it. You can watch it on the playback, you can watch it on whatever the fuck you feel like. It's all good with me. As long as you're here, as long as you're chiming in, as long as you're yapping along with me, pretty much, basically. How you doing? How's it going? What's going on? What's happening? It's me, Who This, of course, at Who This Is One, the at for all the socials, for here, YouTube, of course, as well as the Twitch and all that good stuff, which hopefully Twitch I should be coming back to. I don't want to put a date on it or time just yet, but let's just say like within the next couple of weeks, once I'm back home in Buffalo and I'm able to get set up again. I bought some new gear, so I'm trying to figure all that stuff out, the wiring, the hookups and all that, to make sure everything goes good, smoothly, no problems, no issues, no hiccups, and if there are any, just learn on the spot as I have, for the most part, with everything I have to my benefit, pretty much, to learn from. This thing called life, you learn to adapt, you learn to roll with the punches, as they say, you learn to make things out of whatever's handed to you, whatever's afforded to you, and do what you gotta do with that, right? You may not know me too well. If you have checked in before, if you have been a part of the lives before here, Yap Break Radio Live and or the replays, then you might already pick up on the fact that I've been sniffling a little bit just to start off with. We're like barely 2 minutes into this thing, and yeah, I sound congested as fuck. I sound, I guess, deeper than usual, and it's not intentional. It's not me trying to do a new character or a gimmick. I'm trying to play pretend and nothing like that, or trying to sound like a gremlin or a troll. None of that. I am currently, I guess, in the middle of battling this cold or whatever I got. It's definitely not the flu. I'm not like down for the count out bad completely. I did wake up pretty rough, pause. I was congested. A warm shower last night helped a lot to kind of decongest and kind of open up the airways that, lead to the brain so I can get some oxygen going and not feel like, I got like a plate strapped or wrapped in my head weighing me down with whatever I do throughout the day. I feel overall a little better today. I can't really say I wouldn't dare say I'm feeling 100%, hell no. But compared to last night and waking up this morning, yeah, I feel much better. I've eaten already. I got some liquids in me, feeling better. And tonight too, same thing, just another hot shower, just, some more liquids, tea and soup and whatever, just to kind of get over this congestion as the time is appropriate. I'm actually surprised I'm getting a cold now of all times of year, because usually I'm like one of those very early to get the cold before everybody else. At least I'm lucky enough in that sense. Once everybody else is getting the cold or getting sick or getting the sniffles, I had already gotten over it by then. But I'd say pretty late for me this year, or early start 2026, whatever the case is. I didn't get a cold at all yet, or I didn't get a cold at all in 2025, so 2026, give or take, starting out a little sick. There could be worse things. But hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be over this thing and almost at 100%, and for the most part, 100% almost, inching towards 100% health. So keep me in your prayers that nothing happens to me till then. I'm just kidding, of course. It's just a cold. I'll get over it, as I'm sure if you're sick too, you'll get over it too. It's fine. It's just a couple of days of switching around your routine, not doing the stuff you planned on doing. Like, I'm one of those, I would normally go to the gym sick and all, congested and all that, but I don't want to be an asshole like that. And the gym I'm currently going to right now, Planet Fitness out by Brooklyn, one of them. There's actually many of them in Brooklyn, funny enough, but by the area I'm at is really, what's the word, ill-distributed as far as how they built the thing, because it's one of those where it's They have 3 floors. When I looked it up on Google Maps, it'd be like, okay, where's the nearest one near me? Because I got one of the memberships that I think it's like $25 a month for Planet Fitness, but you get access to all the ones wherever they're located. So if you're not there, you're over here, but there's one nearby, then you can go, as if you were a member of that location specifically. When I saw 3 floors, I probably should have anticipated, it is Brooklyn. It's probably going to be absolutely nothing to write home about, and it's absolutely not. That gym gets packed so easy because it's 4 floors if you include the ground level, but they don't do nothing on the ground floor besides like let you scan in, besides, let you go up the stairs or take the elevator if you need that. But if you need the elevator in the gym, I think you're in trouble. Then again, maybe you're in a wheelchair, you're still working out, or you're on crutches working out still. I understand that, but otherwise, if you're in the gym and you need an elevator to get up to the top floor of the gym, maybe you need to be in the gym a little bit more often. I don't know, that might be me. But that gym gets packed so quickly because the second floor, once you're up the stairs, in the comments, tactical.marine says hello. Hello back to you, Tactical Marine, in the comments. Appreciate you. The second floor, once you get past the first flight of stairs, is pretty compact. It's like whatever gym area designated for that second floor is kind of like wrapping around the staircase as you go up it. So it gets filled up really quick, and behind the staircase is where they got like that. If you're a Planet Fitness member, you'll know what I'm talking about, but they got this little area that's like designated for like quick 30-minute workouts, whatever. Usually when they got like the barbells to curl, for biceps, stuff like that. I usually sneak in there when it's time for like triceps or biceps to kind of blast them real quick and just be in and out within 30, 40 minutes at most. Then you go to the floor above, which is the actual 3rd floor, and that's where a majority of the let's say, good stuff is. Bigger floor, but it's so narrow and it's so confined in its own space that there's really not much to do, per se. There is stuff to do, but once it gets packed, it's really packed, like packed in like sardines, packed like elbow to elbow almost. So as they say, the golden rules with the gym is, of course, go either real early or really late if they close. And I think this is one of those that closes at 11, so you got to be in there, but out by 11 basically. But yeah, it gets packed really quick. So I learned that the hard way, especially after the new year when I went with the New Year resolution gym goers that go in and they just fucking cram themselves in there and just sit at this machine, text, talk to the person next to them, ask for advice or freebies from whoever's around. It looks like they may know how to work out just to get, free advice instead of paying for a trainer, which I don't blame you. Trainers are kind of overrated as is. I don't mind a trainer. I've never needed a trainer. I've been able to, I guess you say train myself. I learned from a gym buddy I went to college with. He's the one that taught me how to work out, like with weights and such. So I learned from him, and from there I've adapted. I've learned on my own. I've learned from the internet, from books and stuff like that too. So I kind of know what I'm doing. But the most insulting thing possibly is when you get approached by a trainer who's in worse shape than you are, or worse, fat, and somehow they're a trainer. I guess to not be discriminatory of body shape and or size. But, I guess now even the gym culture has to be all-inclusive to those. You're healthy regardless of what shape you're in. It doesn't matter where you start or where you finish as long as you keep going. That is true. As long as you get fucking active and busy in the gym, that's what matters most. But I don't need to be approached by a fat trainer. Treat me like I need help from them when they're worse off than I am, and I'm not even being paid to stay in somewhat decent shape. As opposed to them, they go to school, they get their certification, they get to train to be a trainer, and then they look as disheveled as humanly possible, and I might have to teach them a thing or two instead. But yeah, I'll be back in the gym tomorrow morning officially. I just had to take these couple of days off just because, again, the congestion, the sneezing, and not so much coughing, thank God, but more just the sneezing. It's just been a bitch. It's been God damn it. That's the most annoying part for me, the congestion, the constant sinus pressure on the nose, the head, especially this region right here for me. So it gets really annoying just to even like do, as I'm sure I'm telling everybody who knows already, when you're sick, it sucks to do anything or plan to do anything. So yeah, hopefully by the weekend I'll be over, but I'll be over this cold, this thing that's taking over my body and condemn me. Speaking of condemnation, speaking of condemning folks for no good goddamn reason, and speaking of God, goddamn it, the Druski skit, as highlighted here in the pinned comment and/or the title for today's episode of Yap Break Radio. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. At who this is one's a tag for the channel here live first on YouTube and/or after the fact in a replay, or same at for all the social media where we got to reach out to me to reach me, basically. As far as what was that? Oh, no, I thought I heard something. The topic at hand today, Druski, sketch comedian, I guess you can call him, and/or viral internet sensation as he is. I think fairly young. I don't know too much about Druski, to be honest, besides like I was never really a fan myself, and I'm still not, respectfully. I'm not saying he's not funny, he's just not for me. That type of comedy, what he's done till now, he's been kind of forced or cringe, according to me. However, this latest sketch he did, making fun of the megachurches, the over-exaggerated Christian fucking denominations and such, I gotta give it to him as a non-fan. That was probably, I haven't seen everything he's done, but of the things I've seen from Druski and sat through and watched, this is one of the better things he's done. It was actually funny, it made a point, it was solid, and I'd say even, yes, the problem where a lot of people seem to be having a problem with, respectful in its approach. I say that as somebody who isn't a expert on religion, and I try not to touch upon that here or any of my platforms just because it gets messy and I don't care, because I choose not to believe in any per se specifically. I'm also not an atheist per se. I'm just trying to still, as maybe a lot of you are, who knows, in your own personal realm and space, trying to figure out exactly what's going on up there, out in the world in general, in the universe, or whatever exists out there. I don't know, you don't know. As I question regularly and often, the Bible came from who exactly, written by who exactly, and based off what exactly? Who spoke to them enough to inspire them to write the Bible? At the end of the day, written by man. Man is subjective to questioning. So you can always doubt openly if they're a man just like you. Just because they existed, however fucking long ago before you did, that doesn't make them right. It also doesn't make them, history, can be revised. History can be done and laid out in terms of those having their version of history that favors them most. Again, everything's up for debate as far as what happened in the Bible, if shit exists, or actually happened as it went down in the Bible. So I say the Bible is just a big allegedly. Let's just slap a label on that. That's me, of course. You choose to believe, you choose to stand by that wholeheartedly. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I'm also not going to say you're right or co-sign you, let alone. That's me. That's been a lifelong thing with me going on. When I was younger, my mother used to spend a lot of her time trying to, I guess, siphon through a lot of different faiths, religions, groups, to see where the truth actually lied. And I say lie, in both or all interpretations of lied, where it lied L-A-I-D or L-I-E-D, because men lie, women lie, humans lie, religions as a whole can lie. Well, maybe not say lie, but again, fabricate their version of the truth or, the Most High that favors them most, so they can bend the rules according to their favor, with this one that allows you to marry 8, 10 women at a time, this one that allows you to fucking, believe that dogs are damned because the devil in their version of their religion spit on it and it's been a condemned creature since. Not to get into specifics and not to, pick on anybody's faith or religion in particular, but again, what I like about Druski's sketch is that it was at the very base of it all. It was very direct in its approach of what it was making fun of. But in terms of the broader picture, the bigger scheme being Christianity or those types of churches that, the sermons last for like 4 something plus hours, just shy of 3 for the most part on average. And they always ask you for money, money, money as many times as they can. And the fucking pastor, the father, whatever you call him, always swapping out cars every year, different make and model, something you most likely can never afford yourself because you're too busy tithing to the church and or them directly. They're up for grabs as far as making fun of is concerned. I was in one of those types of churches due to my ex who believed blindly in that shit. I think in Spanish it's called like charismático, or like charismatic Christian groups, whatever, where again, they jump and jive and wail, for like 3 hours straight. But how many times, if not, I've lost count, how many times during a sermon they'll ask for money and or tithings and donations and make it a whole point as far as like, you have to do it because God said so, because God said I need a brand new current model year, whatever was popular at the time, like an Escalade, when Escalades were still popping, that kind of thing. Because the church I used to go to with my ex that she used to drag me to and practically beg me to go to, because after one I was done. But she kept begging me and dragging me to it. I was like, all right. But this guy would hold his sermon with his wife at a school assembly at elementary school up in the Bronx. Sunday without fail. The shit would go like 3 hours sometimes, just blabbing and yapping, whatever the fuck, based on the Bible, whatever you like blindly flip to that day or night leading up to the sermon, and being like, God said this, okay, I'm gonna go off of that and freestyle from there pretty much. Not a bad guy. I taught him out of curiosity a couple times, straightforward, and he knows what he's talking about, because you have to have some sort of charisma to be the head of that kind of group and or those people, to have other people follow you enough to be there, no pun intended, religiously, week in, week out. But again, the sermon was held without fail every Sunday for some hours at a elementary school, like auditorium. So not the biggest space, uncomfortable seating for like more than 3 hours each time they did the fucking thing on Sunday. But he'd always dress in the times I went, I never seen him with the same suit twice. Always a nice ass suit, a little too nice if you're humbly and only serving the Lord like that. Debatable. A couple of rings on each finger, a couple of rings on each hand. The wife dressed to the nines. Again, her, same thing. Never seen the same thing twice on her either. And I did get to see them when we got there early enough, even in the same vehicle twice. But that thing was just big, majestic, luxurious. I want to say it was like I'm talking about like over 10 years ago, maybe 12 close to, but whatever top of the line like Lexus there was, like the absolute epitome of like luxury Lexus SUVs is what he was driving in. And he had no shame about it. He drove it extra slow in the parking lot once he'd arrived to make sure it was parked perfectly. No one was too close to it or near it or breathing on it too hard, because, the shit costs obviously some money. But my question has always been, in that case, if you're serving God, if you're serving the Lord, if you're serving the faith blindly, as is your, duty and task as a loyal servant of the faith you serve, why do you need the luxuries? Why do you insist on that? Because they don't even have a church. That's the whole point. They would do it at the school. I don't know if the school charged them anything at all to use it on the Sunday, but it's a school auditorium. Even if they did, it can't be like too much something to charge them with. But they're probably paying close to nothing, or they probably guilt trip the person in charge of like giving permission to use the auditorium at the school to begin with, into being like, well, we're a church, we're a faith, these people are humble, serving God, I'm their humble and loyal servant, their direct line to God, so how dare you charge me anything for holding a sermon for just 3 hours out of every Sunday here at an auditorium. Otherwise during the week you're using it for its intended purpose, but this is to serve the Lord, how dare you charge me, kind of thing. And of course, they don't get taxed most likely, so then you got all that afforded to them. So with that being said, my own personal experience based on that and having seen those churches, how they play out, and having seen already how those churches get made fun of, and rightfully so, I think it was only fair for Druski, for the sake of comedy and for the sake of knocking out a good sketch, him being able to make fun of the church, the megachurches, the way he did. I think it was tasteful. I think it was done with the utmost respect in mind to, let's say, the end-all be-all, which would probably be Jesus, let's say. It's not like he cosplayed as a grifter, hipster, dirty-haired Jesus with a cheap wig on, broing everybody he sees in sight and, openly advocating for, like, medical weed stores or something like that. He didn't do that. Or worse, in, whiteface and doing all that as I just described right now. No, he didn't. He didn't do whiteface this time around. He just dressed in like what a pastor as a part of them churches would dress in typically, like this, top-notch, high-end ass suit with the shoes to match, talking about if you believe in God, you need to tithe, you need to get back. And the funny part was about, I wear Christian Dior, Christian whatever the fuck else the brand was and I wear these Christian whatever Louboutins on my feet because I walk in the blood of Christ. And, with the whole intent being the soul of them things are blood red, pretty much. So irony, it was funny. I liked how it, played into Jesus' blood. Again, no offense directly to Jesus. That wasn't his intent at all. But to see the backlash off of an otherwise harmless in its intense skit. It's just making fun of the situation, but not being sacrilegious towards, Christ, towards people's beliefs at all. But he did make fun of a real life situation. It wasn't there that thing in the news or how long ago it was, some months ago, about that one pastor that was holding the service and basically told people, we're locking the doors behind you and no one is leaving this church until you give a certain amount of money that we need because we need it, but we need it from you to come from you directly instead of us actually chipping in ourselves since we live off your tithes and donations anyway to reach our goal. I'm not sticking with it. If I'm there, I'm forcibly kicking the door down. I'm pushing motherfuckers aside. I don't care who's this trained staff security serving God, allegedly, it is blocking the door. They're getting shoved out the way. I'm walking out that fucking door. I'm not being held at ransom in the name of God or with God as an excuse. That's pathetic. That's sick. That's tacky. That shit does go on without that type of scenario literally going on, though. It does happen because they hold you to it as far as making you tithe, making you donate, making you give all this money over for what at the end of the day? And again, as I stressed with my own personal experience, as I just talked about now, this guy didn't even have a church to do it out of. He probably guilt-tripped the guy who actually gives permission to who can or cannot use a school auditorium to hold, of all things, a service on a Sunday to save money and or guilt-trip him into paying no money because I'm serving God. How dare you? How dare you charge God to be present in your fucking school and shit, whatever. Still getting donations and tithes without fail every Sunday and being like, oh, a minimum of 10% means you really love and serve the Lord like that. If you give less than 10%, how dare you? I never gave once. My girlfriend at that time, my ex, was out of work, in and out of jobs because she was a piece of shit. She was toxic. She couldn't hold nothing down because no one liked her like that. It's another story for another day. And she would give whatever she had on her to them and be left with nothing. And I'd always look at her, the times I went with her, and I'd ask her directly, how can you be this stupid and illogical if you think that giving to him is going to get you in better favor with God than what God would probably want you to do instead, which would be much better for yourself and for whatever you decide to do from now on, and maybe make something of yourself, maybe hold down a job and not have such a shitty attitude towards the people around you because God forbid they're paying you to do something in exchange for them, but all you want to do is get attitude once they give you orders or remind you of what your job is. She was one of those difficult ones. She couldn't hold down a job because she'd end up leaving saying, they were telling me what to do. It was like, stupid, you're there to fucking do a job. Of course they're going to remind you and tell you what to do if you're there to do something and paid for it on top of that. If it's free, I don't blame you. But if you're there and you agree to get paid to do your job, which is the job they give you to do, and they expect you to carry out their orders and or their demands in exchange for pay, you got to comply. Duh. She didn't like to play along in that sense. But again, she would give blindly to the church like that without fail. I don't know how she would get the money. She just would, and then look at me like, oh, well, then I guess you're just not a man of faith like that. I don't know if I can see myself long term with you. After eventually I would say, I'm not going. I don't feel like going. I don't have a feel or like calling to go and waste 3-4 hours of my Sunday just doing that shit and having to travel back from the Bronx to Queens after getting nothing out of whatever we just sat through for all that time, honestly. So I think nothing wrong with Druski. And for people, alleged Christians, actually serving the Lord with all intent and faith, it's not to condemn them either when I say this, but I do say and stress this. If you really served and or cared to uphold Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you are predetermined to uphold like that according to your faith, I think part of that comes with not judging or condemning others, regardless of what they do. Because you're not judge, jury, or executioner. You can't say at the end of the day what you think should happen to them or what should be carried out against them because they, made a joke about the situation, not about the religion. The situation, which is a commonly ongoing one as far as these pastors are making too much fucking money off of hardworking people that want to believe in God so much that they'll blindly believe in the fucking fraud middlemen, pass themselves off as servants of God, but really they're just playing off the fucking sheep mentality of these people stupid enough to give their money to them in hopes that God will favor them, but meanwhile they're going broker, they can't afford their own shit, and then they got to worry on top of that by the end of every week for Sunday, oh shit, I got to have at least 10% or this certain amount to give in donations and tithing to the fucking pastor who's going to be my direct line to God, my escalator up to heaven when it's time for me to pass. I'm sorry, I feel like it's all fraud. If people are going to condemn and or say, God, Jesus is going to strike down on Druski, of all things, for his harmless sketch, I'll leave it at that, then they really should be looking upon themselves because they're the ones that's doing exactly what God and or Jesus said not to do, and that's condemn and judge. They're not the ones to do so. They're not designated to do so. I say no harm, no foul, done with Druski's skit. Again, I'm not necessarily a fan of Druski, and I wasn't up until now, but after I saw that sketch and that little skit he did about the church and the mega churches and shit, I gotta say, you know what? Maybe I might convert into a Druski fan after all. It's never too late. I never found him funny like that till now, but this sketch right here, I think he won me over officially. Only because he called out an actual situation at hand without making fun of the religion at all or linked to the situation at hand. Made it funny, harmless, and got people to react to expose how stupid they are and how obsessed they are over their alleged faith. Jesus would not want you to condemn that man because he did nothing to be condemned over. You're being too sensitive, you're being too protective over your faith and or your denomination or the person that you can't even prove yourself exists. That's the whole point at hand right now. I'm not feeling 100% right now, as you can hear. You can probably see my face too. So I'm going to get off with that. I'm going to make some tea to try to soothe my cords right here. Normally I would probably be on Friday. I might be on tomorrow instead, Thursday, January 15th, earlier this time, hopefully at 3:30 as I planned to do so originally. So for now, that's going to do it for me here on Yap Break Radio. Again, I'm AhhFuGGiT at WhoThisIs1 on the YouTube live verticals, first and foremost. If not, you can catch a replay afterwards too. I always save them. I put them up here afterwards after the fact so you can enjoy them at your own time and whenever you got the time afforded to you to do so. I understand you're busy. You're probably busy right now. You couldn't make it live. Cool. You want to get back to that afterwards? That's totally fine with me too. I hope by tomorrow I'll sound better, maybe hopefully look better this time, fully shaven too as well. There is that key essential thing. Maybe I need to shave this time to feel better so I can know I look better. That way my body will tell me, since you look better, I'll feel better too. Why not? We'll let you feel better about it, right? At Who This Is One, same tag on the socials to find me, wherever you gotta find me at, on the Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that shit as well. I'll catch you next time, hopefully again, feeling, if not a lot better, at least a little better compared to today. Sorry again for how I sound, just I'm like congested, I'm blocked up a little bit, all my holes are blocked and clogged right now, full of phlegm and mucus, so hopefully a lot of it will melt off by tomorrow, Thursday, since I don't think I'm gonna be able to do Fridays. So this week only, it's gonna be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, instead of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as is regularly scheduled from now on for Yap Break Radio. I'm Who This. I appreciate you for tuning in live and on the replay. Till next time, shout out to Druski. He did nothing wrong to harm anybody, but if you're easily butthurt like that about Jesus, maybe you need to pick another faith and leave that man out of your bullshit.